Spotlight, lectures and performances on and around Albany State University.
I'm Dr. Kimberly Harper, and I'm the director of the Foreign Language Institute here on campus. And today, Dr. Eve Lambert is going to introduce our speaker. So we'll go ahead and get started. I am so excited to be here and to welcome our guest speaker. I had the privilege of living in China for almost 5 years, and if I can confess to you, I never wanted to leave. I absolutely loved living in China. I love returning to China, and I consider China one of my homes. It is one of the most beautiful countries in the world. And you know, in Chinese, they call America 美国, which means beautiful country. But in my opinion, I say that China really is the beautiful country. Not only the landscape, but the people as well. The culture is so rich. So I'm so excited that our guest speaker is going to come forward and just talk about one aspect of the beautiful country and the beautiful culture there. So I just hope that you are ready to learn more about the fascinating culture. One memory I do have out of so many is just those bamboo pillars that were being erected all the time from the north to the south, the east and the west. They just seemed to be building all of the time. And when you ask people about, is this possible, people may say no, and then the answer after much conversation would change to yes. So it just seemed like anything and everything was possible there. So I'm just curious to learn more about how that is done there. Here it seems there's so many rules, and there may be there as well, but people get things done, and it's just an exciting time. So I hope that you will help me to welcome Dr. Wang, who will come and tell us more about what's happening there from a business perspective. Dr. Wang is an assistant professor who teaches Chinese language, business culture, and literature at Florida State University. She holds a PhD in Chinese and comparative literature from Washington University in St. Louis. Her research interests include pre-modern Chinese literature and culture and women's literature and culture. Won't you please help me welcome Dr. Wang?
Thank you, Dr. Lambert, for introducing me. First, I would like to thank the Foreign Language Institute at Albany State University for inviting me to give 2 workshops here. I hope I can use my expertise to give some supports to the growing foreign language studies projects at ASU. And also, I'm very happy to be here to know more about Albany State University. Okay, let me start. Okay, so in the 21st century, nobody can ignore China's impact. So before we start talking about anything about China and the global market, I would like to encourage you to think of something that you know concerning China in your daily life. Can we do some exercise like that? Okay. Anything you know about China?
Well, I can't recall right now.
Do you eat?
Well, Chinese food.
Exactly, Chinese food. Okay. How about you?
I know a little bit about Hirajuku. Is that how you say it? Pardon me? Is it Hirajuku? I don't know what they call it.
So what kind of thing?
It's basically it's an exaggerated style of dress.
Oh, the Chinese style dress? Yes, exactly. And what else?
Well, China is well known for its manufactured goods.
Exactly, manufacturing. The goods that we can buy at Walmart and all kinds of markets. Yes, actually we know so much about China in our daily life. I want to talk about that first, China's impact in Americans' daily life. And the first one of the students already mentioned that we see so many products made in China. Typically, we see clothing, toys, or just about so many products that we can buy at stores like Walmart, Target. And second, we see so many Chinese elements in our daily life. For example, if you go to a food court at any mall, usually there's a Chinese food section. And then we have numerous Chinese restaurants, supermarkets in almost every city. And I'm very surprised to find out that even a very small Central American country like Belize, they have a pretty big supermarket, and people often visit that on a daily basis. And also, perhaps you have noticed that actually not just the Chinese restaurants, many Western restaurants have already put Chinese elements into their menu. For example, the chain restaurants like Applebee's and TGI Fridays. When I went to the Applebee's, I noticed that on their menu they have Asian-style stir-fry. And at TGI Fridays, you can find dishes like fish with kung pao sauce, that kind of Chinese elements. Actually, not just American chain restaurants. In some unique restaurants, like recently I visited this tourist city, St. Augustine, Florida. They have a very old Cuban-style restaurant called Columbia, and it was established in about 1905. They actually have dishes inspired by Chinese cuisine. So it's just about anywhere. Yeah, one more example is like big supermarkets like Costco and Sam's Clubs. On their shelf, you can see products like frozen dumplings or Chinese-style fried rice, something like that, noodles. So I think this phenomenon tells us the Chinese food has entered Americans' regular diet. It's not a novelty anymore. And other things like Chinatowns in American big cities, and also in news broadcasts, on TVs, on radios, we can hear about China almost every day. For example, I like listening to NPR, National Radio, and I noticed that there are so many talk shows, so many shows on the radio, and they often invite guest speakers. When these guest speakers talk about global issues, they almost always mention China as a reference. So we can see that everywhere. And then many people, including many Americans, nowadays go to China as tourists, study abroad students, or business people. And actually, some of them have decided to live in China permanently. So in general, China has a great impact in Americans' daily life. So next, how about in business world? Before I talk about anything about that, I want to briefly introduce China to you. China is, any one of you know how big China is? Approximately?
Is it like the second biggest continent?
Yeah, China, same as America?
Oh, yeah.
He said it's a little bigger. Okay, China is about 9.6 million square kilometers. That's about 3.7 square miles, which means if you just talk about continental America, not including places like Alaska, then China is bigger than America. But if you include places like Alaska, then America is bigger than China. So I would say, overall, the two countries are pretty similar. And China is located in the East Asia. It's about 1/4 of the Asian land. And China has 1.3 billion people. And as we know, the current world population is about 7 billion. So China's population is about 1/5 of the world's population. So we see that China is a vast country and there are so many people. But what does that mean for business people? So first, that means the labor there is very cheap. That's why we see so many made in China products, because international companies like going to China to produce their products, such as Apple products. So just to give you an idea how cheap labor in China is, according to data in 2009, the average monthly salary of an employee all over China, average, all kinds of jobs, was $393 per month. In bigger cities, it was a little more, around $700. But in 2008, the average monthly salary for American employee in the US was already $3,800 per month. So according to this, you can imagine, of course, international companies would like to go to China to produce their products. So most of the people know China imagine China as this mass product manufacturer, only produce low-end and low-tech products like clothing and toys. But here I would like to remind you that China is slowly moving towards high-tech and high-end products, such as personal computers, telecom equipment. So the communications are two ways. They produce a variety of products. Okay, second, I think the large country and large population means a lot of consumers. It's a huge market. That's why so many international companies see the opportunities over there, see the profit. So the big companies such as KFC, Haagen-Dazs, Pizza Hut, they all went there and have been very, very successful. But when these companies enter China, they realize that in order to make a lot of profit, they have to cater to Chinese taste. So KFC and, for example, Pizza Hut and Haagen-Dazs, they transform themselves into very luxurious restaurants. For example, this is a Pizza Hut in China, and the second picture is Haagen-Dazs in Shanghai. And the decoration and everything is very luxurious, and also the prices are high on the menu. For example, the average price for Haagen-Dazs, this much ice cream was average over 200 yuan, which is about $30. So if you really want to eat Haagen-Dazs cheap, you better do it in America. But I highly recommend you to try it when you go to China. And also, some restaurants, like this is Haagen-Dazs too. So do you know what the shape of Chinese like hot pots, also known as fondue. So in order to cater to their taste, they make the ice cream and chocolate in a container like a hot pot. So instead of the hot soup in the middle, they put chocolate fudge in the middle so you can dip it into it. And then this picture is actually specifically for Christmas, like a Christmas celebration. So they make it like hot pot for Christmas at Haagen-Dazs. So it's very popular. It's over 300 yuan per serving. So Here, on the left, we see KFC restaurant in China. You can see the decoration. It's Chinese red lanterns. So they transformed the decoration into the Chinese style to welcome the Chinese guests. And on the right, you see the soup. It's egg drop soup plus cucumber and tomato. That's actually on the menu of KFC in China. And then, okay, let's go back. Okay. And then the big country and the large population also mean job opportunities, including for foreigners. And the most popular job opportunity is, of course, teaching English in China. In my opinion, teaching English in China can give American students a relatively simple and easy way to get used in a very relatively safe and a simple environment on campus in China to get used to the Chinese lifestyle. And you can contact the schools or universities to get the job opportunities, and also there are a lot of other organizations are there helping you to get a job. And a popular internet will be Dave's Cafe. If you search Google, you can easily find it. As far as I know, a lot of American students use that website to find such a job. And also, teaching English is not about just teaching English. One of my former students is now working in the financial services in Washington, D.C. He told me if an American student wants to work in China, it's a good idea to get a teaching job first, so it will get you to China right away easily, because they usually offer free round-trip international ticket, a plane ticket, and a free room, free health insurance plus monthly stipend. And then while you are there, you can start networking. As long as you constantly do that, after several months, you can land on another job that you're really interested in. So networking is very important in China. And then if you pay attention, you can see a lot of opportunities once you get there. I just mentioned that China is such a vast country. So when we talk about Chinese culture, we really have to define the regions. Are you talking about the northern China or southern China or the western part of China? They're very different. And most Americans, when they go to China, they tend to choose the big cities like the capital Beijing or the commercial center Shanghai, because they have heard about it. And also because these cities, they're very internationalized and they're highly regulated, and the system is relatively more complete. And of course, you will see a lot of opportunities there. But I also want to mention that, let me see this. Okay, so this is a map of China. And then since 1979, Chinese government began to develop their economy rapidly. They established special economic zones in the eastern coastal cities because it was just more convenient. Also, one of the first special economic zones includes Xiamen, where the ASU has the summer program. But nowadays, they try to also develop the economy in the mid and western part of the cities and give them very good policies, like tax policies to encourage the economy there. So I'm thinking if you also consider small-sized or mid-sized cities in the mid or the western regions, you probably will see a lot of opportunities unexpectedly. Another point I want to bring up is some majors in the United States, you simply cannot find a decent job. One of the reasons is there are not enough projects available. For example, I give you an example is landscape architecture. As far as I know, it's not so easy to find a job here. However, if you go to China, it's so much easier because When Americans go to China, one of the impressive things they discover is that construction sites are everywhere. Not only in the big cities like Beijing and Shanghai, but also in small cities, medium-sized cities. They just need so many talents to do things like construction, architecture, so you can find a very good job over there. So all these examples, the point is I want to encourage you to explore the opportunities and to open your mind to the great potential of the Chinese market. The next point I want to point out is the communications in the business world between China and the world are not one way. China export all these products to the US. It's actually a two-way communication. For example, not only these international companies want to get into China, Chinese companies want to get into the global market. I think a typical example is this company called the Haier company. Haier, this is the brand for household appliances. It was established in 1984 in Qingdao, Shandong province. But in 1999, the leader of the company made an important decision. They decided to establish a factory in America. Here you can see the headquarters in New York, and this is their factory. As you can understand, this move is against general economic rule. The general rule is you produce your products in a country where it's labor intensive, so you can pay the employee little money, but you make profit in the US market. But here, Haier company is just doing exactly the opposite. They came to America to pay a lot more money to US employees to produce their appliances. But why did they do that? Can we guess? Let's think about that. Any idea? Why did they do that? So why did they come to America to pay so much more money to increase their cost and make less profit? Who would do that? Any idea? Guess.
I mean, unless in the end, profit increases or something like that.
So your point is, at some point, that profit will increase. Yeah, I think he's right on the right track because they really wanted to expand their international reputation. So what would be a quick way to do that? Not inside China, but get into the U.S. market. And so they were willing to pay a high price in the beginning so they can use U.S. information, U.S. technology, and U.S. market to establish the reputation of the company quickly. And then the demand will increase. At that point, they will ship the made in China Haier appliance into the U.S. market. In fact, they have been very successful. Nowadays, if you go to appliance stores, you will see Haier, the brand, next to other big brands like LG, Whirlpool, or Kenmore. So they have been very successful. So, in brief, China, I have been talking about how China's doing business, and obviously China has transformed into a market economy, especially after entering the WTO World Trade Organization in 2001. Seems that China has been so westernized and globalized. But here I want to mention one point is that although China has been globalized and westernized, Chinese still claims them having a market economy with Chinese characteristics. What does that mean? That means before 1978, China was totally planned economy. That means the government controlled everything, controlled what to produce, what to sell, in what ways these products should be distributed. today we transformed into market economy, but still have a lot of state control, which means that we need to be aware Chinese economy is still non-Western. And that's exactly why it's so important for us to learn about China, the Chinese business culture. So I hope this workshop can be helpful for you to discover your China opportunities. Therefore, in the rest of the workshop, I would like to talk about 2 points. The first point, I want to talk about the university programs, a typical university program in the US, and how they, what kind of opportunities American students can have. So first I would like to ask some of the audience, what kind of opportunities would you like to have in here so you can enhance your knowledge about China? What kind of opportunities would you like? Maybe learning Chinese, the Chinese language? So what kind of?
Just to go and travel so I can learn the culture.
Oh, he wants to going to travel in China and learning the culture. So I'm sure the ASU summer program in Xiamen will be very helpful. Are you going?
I don't know yet.
I hope after this workshop you can register immediately. Okay. You don't know you don't have any ideas yet, yeah. But do you like Chinese?
Yes.
Maybe you should. Do you think Chinese food in America is pretty authentic? So you don't have any clear idea whether it's authentic or not?
You can get a chance to build your network and speak to people and get other jobs in China.
Yes. So you want to do that, you want to be able to do that. So perhaps you want to meet more Chinese people locally in Albany, and the next step will actually go to China to make connections. Yes, very good. And for you, I think I have a recommendation. Yeah, since you don't have any idea whether the food here is authentic, which means you have to have some comparisons, which require you to taste authentic Chinese food, so you can have a comparison. So how can you taste authentic Chinese food?
Go to the source.
Go to the source. Where is the source?
In China.
China. Go to China. Yes. I would say at least you need to go to like a New York City. I think the food in Chinatown is pretty authentic. And then you can go to China. Yeah, to do that. So any other thoughts? I'm sure you all have a lot of thoughts here and there.
Well, I was going to say being able to experience some of the traditions, because I know that's very strong over there in China and not so much over here. So just kind of getting that chance to experience what the traditions are before you visit would be nice.
So are you suggesting a course on Chinese culture in general, something like that, Chinese civilization? Yes, very good thought.
Well, just a suggestion out of her comment, just a small suggestion out of her comment, the Chinese New Year is coming up in a few days. So maybe folks may want to hear something about that a little bit.
So we all know about Chinese New Year, right? Do we know something about the Chinese New Year?
Don't start in February.
In February?
No,
That's
not February, but you know.
You're right. This year is in February. Yeah, this year is in February. Chinese New Year is coming up, and do we know which year is this? Is the past year, 2012? We know the 12 animals. We know 12 animals, right? And then this year, the last year, 2012, what was the animal for that year? Do we know? Huh? We know? What's the symbol of Chinese culture when you think about China? Can you think of an animal that actually represents China typically?
The dragon? The dragon?
The dragon. So 2012 was the year of dragon. How about this year, 2013?
Isn't it the year of the rat?
Anything, any animal you can think of that is actually somewhat looks like dragon, but not dragon.
It's the year of the snake.
Exactly, the year of snake. And we often consider the snake little dragon because it's smaller. Very good. So then I want to talk about the university programs available in the United States. Typically, through a foreign language department, American University will offer some courses, and many universities actually have majors and minors in the Chinese studies. Take my school, Florida State University. We have a Chinese program in the Department of Modern Languages and Linguistics. We offer majors, 3 kinds of majors in Chinese studies. The first track is called the major in the Chinese language and literature. Second track is Chinese with business concentration. So basically you take courses both from the Chinese language department and the business school. So and the business culture that business Chinese that I'm currently teaching is one of the core courses. You can take it for fulfilling the component of the business side or the language side. And the third track is Chinese and Japanese co-major, so you can learn 2 languages at the same time. We also offer minors for students who want to major in something else but still very interested in taking some Chinese courses. In addition to that, we offer summer intensive program. It's about 6 weeks in Tianjin, a northern city right next to the capital, Beijing. For this program, we offer courses and language and cultural and business engineering courses, and you can transfer the credits to the FSU credits. And they offer on-campus living and the trips to different countries. I'm sure the ASU program is quite similar to this. Also, just recently, we successfully obtained opportunities, scholarship, tuition waiver opportunities for students who are interested in taking courses in regular semesters, I mean the spring and the fall semester, to go there to study Chinese. And in the past 2 years, some upper-level students actually obtained a full fellowship to go to China to work on a master's degree at the Chinese university. The benefit is very good because this fellowship includes full tuition waiver, free on-campus room, free health insurance, and a monthly stipend. It's about 2 years and a half. So it's totally covered. And many students use this opportunity to travel. Some of you mentioned travel. Of course, taste authentic Chinese food and immerse themselves into traditional and contemporary Chinese culture as much as possible. And they make a lot of friends, including Chinese, other American students, or international friends. So I'm going to talk about that. Let's see. So we also have some extracurriculum activities, such as the weekly language table. Basically, it's occasion for opportunity for faculty members and the students to gather together on a weekly basis to speak in Chinese or talk about Chinese culture. And we also have a student organization called the Chinese Language and Culture Association. They organize all kinds of activities, including parties for celebrating the Chinese New Year. And they have like a singing contest, things like that throughout the year. So in brief, I highly recommend you to take all kinds of courses available here at ASU, or your study abroad summer courses. One thing I want to point out is, actually, I want to ask you this question first. So after you study the Chinese language, where can you use it? I mean, where can you use the Chinese language? Do you have some?
I would assume you can use it at your workplace.
Workplace? Where is this workplace?
For me?
For you, yeah, for you.
Well,
What's your major, by the way?
Mass communications.
Mass communication, okay. And then after you obtain the Chinese language skills and the Chinese cultural background, where do you think you can work? It's a possibility, any possibility?
CNN.
CNN, okay, in the United States. Where else can you use the Chinese language?
Overseas.
Overseas, where?
At another radio, well, at another TV station in China.
A TV station in China. Where else? Can we only use the Chinese language in China? No. Where?
You can use the Chinese language all over the United States, and especially Hawaii.
Oh, especially Hawaii. Anywhere else in the world outside U.S.? Any places that we can imagine? It's a global language. It's a global language. I want to mention that once you obtain the language skill, you can not only work in mainland China, but also other regions like Taiwan, Hong Kong, and some southeastern countries like Singapore. And of course, the Chinese companies perhaps hire a company in the United States. And also, this student just mentioned maybe a TV station, CNN, that they want some Chinese language skills.
Because we do have a lot of mass communication students in this room, it just occurred to me that in recent years, we are seeing more and more Chinese TV stations are hiring foreigners in order to help them to launch their own English program. So that's one possibility that I would like to share with everyone here.
Can you tell us more about how these, approximately when and how these people recruit people? Stations will recruit people here? Do you know how they do that?
How they do that?
Yeah. They come to campus and...
No, I don't think they came to the U.S. campuses to do that. They usually hire locally. So I would say it's a better idea. It's a good idea to use some kind of recruiting agency, or it may be still a good idea to go to China to teach English.
TV9 does it on their, like on TV.
On TV, yeah.
Advertise on the TV station.
Right. So you can go to those TV stations' websites to find whether they have the hiring opportunities or not, the employment opportunities.
That's a very good point, because nowadays, CCTV, he just mentioned CCTV is China's central TV station, the biggest TV station in China. And then they actually begin to broadcast news and all kinds of other programs in English. So for the mass communication majors here, you might also want to consider such opportunities. This is, I would call it a very new opportunity. In the past, maybe such opportunities were very few or unthinkable, but nowadays, you really need to let your imagination fly. You can find a lot of opportunities like that. And also I want to mention that some regional TV stations also are getting more and more interested in hiring English-speaking people to join their TV programs. As a matter of fact, sometimes they make like a TV dramas. They want to hire some people to be in the show. Next, I want to point out, who can tell me what are the most spoken languages in the United States? Yeah, what are so many languages available? So what are the most spoken languages? You know?
English, Spanish, and Chinese.
So right. Yes, English, Spanish, and the Chinese. Well, according to my experience in Florida, especially in the South Florida, one of many employers prefer this candidate, in addition to English, have some Spanish skills because there's a large Spanish-speaking population there. So it's almost like a job requirement. So I can imagine perhaps in the near future, Chinese may become a job requirement in certain areas in the United States. So I think if you choose to take Chinese courses or join your summer program in Xiamen, I think it's definitely a good investment. And next, I would like to share 2 examples of my students, their business experience related to China. One of my students just had a wonderful internship opportunity in Beijing in the past summer, 2012. She told me when she was over there, she unexpectedly obtained some job opportunity as translator, exactly because she was bilingual. Because before she went to China, she already took some courses, Chinese language courses. So it was very surprising for her. In fact, the reason that she obtained this internship opportunity in Beijing was because her boss in the U.S., she worked for a IT research company for 2 summers in the U.S., and her American boss just overheard that she was taking Chinese courses at FSU and immediately recommended her to write an email to a woman in Beijing. And this woman in Beijing turned out to be her future boss at the internship in Beijing. So it's a very amazing story. Another example perhaps is even more surprising. A student of mine, he took some Chinese language and culture courses at FSU, and then he went to Beijing to stay there for a year to learn the language and the culture. At that time, her dad gave him a call saying, I want to buy some construction products in China to sell in Miami, Florida, but I don't have any connections in China. Can you do something about that? Then the student just went to a major construction company in Beijing and used Mandarin Chinese to communicate with the construction company and made a business connection for his dad in America. Since then, his dad has been having a very fruitful business relationship with this construction company in China. We can imagine without his son's language and cultural ability, this is impossible. Okay, last, I want to discuss Chinese business culture in more detail with you. First, I want to talk about Chinese general expectation of others. Okay, what's their general expectation? Do we have any idea? Have you interacted with Chinese before? Yes. Oh, okay. So do you have any idea what do they expect?
They expect respect, like yeah, like they're very I've noticed that they're very traditional and whereas here we're a little bit more relaxed about things. They're like, no, this is how it's supposed to go. It's very detailed.
Very detailed. Okay, so I would say the first thing, Chinese, generally speaking, expect others, they expect that this other person that they're talking to already knows the social protocol and they should behave in certain ways to make everything proper. So this is a general, with politeness, respect. They expect you to already know that. But fortunately, they're more tolerant to foreigners because they think, how can they expect a foreigner to know everything about Chinese culture since they're not born here? The reason that Chinese pay so much attention to the social protocol is because this ancient idea, the Chinese concept of li, we can translate it as manner, protocol, social etiquette. They think in order to make a society in order, everybody should behave properly. So then the whole society is harmonious, okay, and not chaotic. But your distance with Chinese will be significantly shortened if you play by the Chinese rules. What I mean is speaking the Chinese language, learning and practicing Chinese culture. When I say playing by the Chinese rules, that doesn't mean you have to lose your American identity or self-identity. It's just a great idea to try to look at China through Chinese lenses. So then, based on your knowledge of both cultures, you can have some well-informed judgment instead of bias or just a guess. This will help you greatly in the business world because you know, if you know Chinese people's mindset, you know how they do business, and then you can react accordingly. So today, I would like to talk about, there are so many aspects, but I would like to focus on two concepts. The first concept is the Chinese word 关系. Do you know what it means, some of you? 关系 can be translated simply as relationship or networking. Networking is so important in perhaps all over the world, especially for business people, but it's so important for Chinese people, not only in the business world, but just the general social interaction. When you go to China, Chinese may teach you this word, one of the first words they will teach you. The reason that 关系 is so important is because Chinese do not like doing business with strangers. So in order to make their business transaction effective and pleasant, before they talk about anything about the deal, they would try to transform the strangers into friends. So an American businessman once told me that in the large business transactions, the Chinese, the Western counterparts would like to quickly get to the technical discussions of the deal. Like, let's sit down, let's talk about our products, and then let's get to the bottom line, make a deal. But they often lose out because their Chinese counterparts are not ready for the contract because they still see you as strangers. So at this point, you might ask me, Dr. Wang, you have been talking about 关系, but can you give us a concrete example about that? Okay, so I will give you a concrete example. Perhaps Chinese prefer not to make the deal in the conference room. They want to probably take you to a restaurant to talk about the deal at the dinner table. Okay, so at the dinner table, they will talk about, not about the deal first, they will talk about something else. Your hobby, your interest, most likely, how do you feel about your trip to China? And then they will share delicious, authentic Chinese food and Chinese beer and hard liquor with you and nourish your relationship. So it's very important to remember this aspect of Chinese culture. So when you first go to China, try to make business connection, because we know this rule, they want to do business with friends. So when you first went there, I would recommend find an intermediary to make the initial contact, for example, a friend of yours, or someone that your friend knows about, or consultant you hire from a local consulting company, simply because these people can play the role of friends to make the contacts for you. And also, when you send your business materials about your products, about your company to this Chinese counterpart, you need to make it as detailed as possible, and preferably in Chinese. The reason is, for example, if you don't know any Chinese and some Chinese company send you a pile of documents in Chinese, your first reaction probably be, it's a lot of trouble. I have to hire a translator to translate everything, and this is so many documents to read, and you perhaps just put aside and forget about it. And the Chinese company will never hear from you. The same in China. But if you, on the other hand, if you make everything so easy for them to save their energy and time, they will be so much happier to work with you. And also another important point is always bring your business cards, and preferably printed in both English and the Chinese. And the Chinese idea is you should hand the card with both hands at the corner like this, to show your respect to your potential business partner or your potential business partner's friends. So if your card is printed in Chinese on one side, when you hand the card to the other person, you should do this and make sure the Chinese side is facing up. Okay. So when you make connections with people, you need to show of course you need to show your knowledge and your interest in the products, but also you need to show your Chinese language and the culture skills. Here I would like to give you an example. One of my students, I think he excels at networking. He always makes connections. And one day he went to this business meeting with a Chinese businessman and some other American students. But he was the only one who could actually speak some Chinese language. So he was sitting next to this Chinese businessman. The Chinese businessman just kept silent the whole time. Looked very serious and everything, unapproachable. And then my students started to talk to this Chinese businessman in Chinese, and immediately the distance between them was shortened, and this Chinese businessman became so enthusiastic about their developing the relationship, and they exchanged the business card and everything. But on the other hand, the other Americans who couldn't speak any Chinese language couldn't make such connections. So theoretically, the other people just lost a great opportunity. Also, in generally speaking, I want to let you know, in China, you will meet, of course, as well as the rest of the world, you will meet so many different types of people. In China, some people want to practice English with you. So in that case, it doesn't really matter how much Chinese you speak. However, if we all know when you speak a foreign language, you tend to be shy, hesitant. Okay, so if this Chinese business person you meet is very shy about speaking foreign language, and he will just keep silent forever. So at this point, if you can use your Chinese skills, it will be very helpful. So in brief, you need to well prepare yourself by taking all kinds of courses to make sure you have the skill. And also, modesty in Chinese society is much stressed. So when you say praise a Chinese person, how will he or she react? Oh, here, if you praise somebody, how would she or he react?
Oh, I don't know.
Here in the United States.
In the United States, people will continue to praise that one person.
Praise that person, and that person will say,
thank you.
Thank you, right? But in China, if you praise a Chinese person, most likely you will see this person appear a little bit uneasy and say something, traditionally say something like "nali nali." It can be translated as "Where is the virtue? Where is the virtue?" What does that mean? Are they happy with your compliment? Are they uneasy with your compliment?
They're uneasy about it.
They're uneasy. She feels that they're uneasy. But actually, this way is part of the social protocol they're supposed to do. It's part of the ritual. They're not supposed to say thank you, because if they say thank you, other Chinese will view this person as arrogant. So this is a part of the ritual. And so if you see this kind of phenomenon, don't be surprised. And if you truly feel you want to praise this Chinese person, definitely praise the Chinese people, because they show modesty. They actually very happy about your compliment in their heart. So, okay. So next one, I want to say, okay. So I want to mention another example about my student, which I want to demonstrate. When you choose courses, don't just limit yourself to business courses that seems to be directly related to your purpose. Other courses like culture, history, language, actually closely related to your business purpose. For example, my student, she went to an internship in China, and one day before she went to China, she took Chinese women, pre-modern, pre-20th century, Chinese women's literature and culture with me. One would think, how could such a course about ancient China benefit business people in contemporary society? But actually, she went to China, and one day they visited the Summer Palace, a villa of royal family in Beijing. She and a co-worker saw a painting with the Chinese woman's image on the painting at the museum, and she immediately pointed out who that woman was. And immediately the rest of the group, the Chinese co-workers, were so surprised, because they wouldn't expect an American would know such a great detail about Chinese culture, not Chinese contemporary culture, but Chinese ancient Chinese culture. They're greatly impressed, and the distance between the American student and the Chinese were just shortened immediately. So I want to point out that you need to pay attention to a wide range of courses. And next, I'm going to talk about the gift giving. Gift giving is very important in almost every culture. Typical example is your Christmas gift giving in the United States. And for the personal connection or business connection, gift gifting is very, very important in China. Basically, just like here, you never tell how much it is, and there are certain things you should avoid. So before I talk about that, I have handouts for you to work on in maybe 3 minutes. Okay, so let's spend a few minutes to make a decision. Is it puzzling? A little bit. That's normal. If you're done, please raise your hands. Okay, most people are done, so let's discuss these questions. Okay, the first, what's your answer? C, a basket of pears sounds very fresh. Anything else? Any other answer? A clock, A. Chocolates? Okay. So who chose D, a box of chocolates? 1, 2 people? Okay, so if this group go to China, only 2 people will give the right gift. Very surprising. Okay, so this further proof that there's a great need to study the Chinese culture. Okay, let's analyze. Why not A, B, or C? A clock. Why? It sounds so good. Okay, it has a lot to do with the Chinese language. The same pronunciation represent can mean different characters, and the meanings between these two words can be vast. Okay, so clock, send a clock as a gift. In Chinese will be mean 送终, which means you're ready to attend the dying relatives. You're ready to arrange a funeral for this family. So you cannot give them a clock. Okay. Next one, a lovely umbrella. Why isn't good?
I think isn't there like an omen with it? Like,
what kind of omen?
Like a bad omen saying something like it will rain or something?
Will rain? Okay, so again, it's connected to a Chinese character with the same pronunciation. San means separation of the family. So you don't want to give them an umbrella, especially a couple. Okay, why is the basket of pears not appropriate? Again, with the Chinese character, Li means separation and divorce. So you don't want to give a basket of pears to a family, especially a couple. So the right choice for this question would be a box of foreign chocolates. It's an all well-rounded gift. Okay, let's move to second. When you give a Chinese friend a gift, you will wrap it with white? Red? Red. Why do you say it's red?
That's my favorite color.
Oh, that's his favorite color. And white is a very good color in the Western culture, but unfortunately, it's also associated with funeral and death in Chinese culture. Black is the same way, so red will be definitely the choice. Red will be a good choice for all kinds of festivals, including weddings or New Year's celebration. Okay. Number 3, if you give someone flowers for, I think the question is a little bit wrong. If you give something for celebration, birthday celebration, you should avoid. Why? Because it sounds weird. Well, again, yellow chrysanthemums are usually presented to the deceased in Chinese culture. Okay. Number 4, when you offer a gift, if your Chinese friend rejects it, what will you do?
Back off immediately.
Back off immediately to show
Respect.
respect. Any other answers? No. Actually, you need to offer up to 2 more times. Because when you offer the first time, again, I just talk about the rule of modesty. They should show the modesty, so they generally will reject it. But you should continue to offer up to 2 more times. But you shouldn't continue to insist until they accept it, because if they reject it, there must be a good reason. Okay? And then, of course, you shouldn't back off immediately. Okay, number 5. At a business banquet, when you need to put your chopstick aside, which of the following is not appropriate? C. Why isn't C not appropriate? Oh, C.
I don't know, maybe you showing that it wasn't good or something? I don't know.
Any reason? Anybody knows?
On your plate?
On your plate? On your plate is okay. Yeah. Okay, so the answer should be C. Stick your chopstick straight up into a bowl of rice, because this image reminds of Chinese of burning sticks of incense for the dead. So we learned so many. Okay, so to end my speech, I would like to. I hope you all enjoy this workshop, and then I would like to end my workshop with a quote from a leading economist's 2012 book. He said, from an economic point of view, for Westerners, a rapidly growing China opens an array of new opportunities. To take advantage of them and also to know the challenger better, Westerners have to learn much more about China. Schools and universities in America, Europe, and Japan must offer more Chinese language courses as well as courses on the Chinese history, culture, economy, and politics. Business schools have to teach Chinese business. There should be many more translations of Chinese books, classical and contemporary literature, books on business, economy, politics, history, and so on. All this can provide impetus for many more people to discover their China opportunities. So I hope all of you can discover your China opportunities. Thank you.